Okay, I want to introduce myself. My name is Ray Horner, and I'm going to show you some of the materials that we'll need to get started in the class. So these are some brushes, some paints, things like that. But we're going to take a look at some of these things, so it'll make life a lot easier for you when it's time for you to create. So I'm going to show you some of the supplies, and the main thing is we need some kind of support system or pad. So this is the pad that I want you to pick up. It's a 9x12 mixed media pad made by Canson, and there are different companies mixed media pads like Grumbacher. This one right here by Grumbacher, they make one also. The thing that's nice about them is that you can use different kinds of, you can draw on it, you can paint on it, so it makes it very easy to work on. So the other thing we're going to need is a ruler. This just happens to be a transparent one, like a 12-inch ruler. You'll need something like this. It could be a plastic one, clear, solid plastic, metal, it doesn't matter. The other thing is we'll need a X-Acto knife, and this is an X-Acto knife. It's good to have a case to it. So you can see this is the X-Acto knife. I can use it to cut. Now I have boards that I use to cut, but if you're going to do any cutting, I usually just say use the back of your pad and cut on this. What it does, it gives your paper something resilient to cut into, and it makes it easier, and you get nice clean cuts when you make cuts. So the other thing is we'll need glue sticks, and they come in different sizes. Probably one glue stick will probably do it. I have a number of them. These aren't that expensive, they're pretty inexpensive. But some glue sticks, erasers. So this is what we call a kneaded eraser, and this is what it looks like. Kind of, you can shape it, and it gives you a nice clean eraser. Or you can use your basic, typical eraser like this one. This is white pearl, and this one's kind of dirty, but this is a pink pearl. So the other thing you will need is let me see if I can zoom in. Okay, this is good. It's a pencil. So your basic yellow pencil, where it stays in focus. So it's like a 2. This is a HB. And they come in different means. Here's a HB and an artist pencil. So, and then they come in different ways of dispensing the lead. So this is a mechanical pencil. And so here's a pencil set. You don't need a pencil set, like just a regular basic pencil, but I just want to show you this one right here in the pencil set. This is the HB, so it's like somewhere in the middle. And then you have like a real soft lead. Some of these, like this is a 5B. So let's see. Yeah. So like a 5B is going to give you a very soft, dark line in this shading. So we'll just do a little shading here, just to show you on this pad here. So this is my HB, and you can see it kind of lays tone down pretty easily. And this is the multimedia paper, so it has a little bit of a tooth to it. Now you can get a mechanical pencil like this one, but you're not able to work from the side, so it's gonna actually, it takes a little bit longer. But so this one just happens to have like a 2H lead inside, and then here's your pencil that you buy off the yellow pencil that you buy off the shelf. Now I'm using this now. Now I do feel a difference from the artist grade and the yellow pencil, but it's not much of a difference that you'd have to run out and buy the artist grade. And then you have a hard, what we call a hard lead pencil. This is a H lead pencil, which gives you like a very light value lead. And that's why sometimes people will buy like a pencil set, because it's easier to work with. But you can do, I can make a light value with this pencil just by light pressure, using light pressure, and I can give myself a light value. Yeah, so I'm going over it this way. I could just tell you what to buy, but it's kind of good to see what you need to buy. The other paper that you can get is made by the same company. It's just, it says watercolor paper, and this will work also. It's 9 by 12, and either one, you can get either size, doesn't matter. 9 by 12, 11 by 14. That's not critical, because we're working online. So 9 by 12 or 11 by 14. In fact, my 9 by 12 is probably going to be a little bit less expensive. They make a lot of them because a lot of people buy that size. The other thing that's handy to have is Sharpies. You can get these from the dollar store, or from you can get these from Staples. You don't have to go to the art store to get these. So I mentioned two different sizes. You can see this one they call the fine point, and this one is fine. But sometimes you're working and you want to lay down a lot of black, so it's easier to lay down a lot of black with this one, with the fine point. In fact, I even have another one that's even thicker than this one, than to try and do everything with this one. Yeah. This one's good to draw and do line work with. If we were doing cross-hatching, this pen is excellent for doing, like, working with cross-hatching and things like that. So these two would be an excellent thing to have in your toolbox. The other thing that I like to use is tape. So I use this 1-inch tape, like masking tape, and what it's used for, that when you're making your artwork within this area, then when you pull the tape off, you have a nice presentation of your artwork. So you'll see some of my videos later on for the class where I use the tape. Now you can use this blue tape, or you can use the cheaper tape. You know, like this cheaper tape like this. It doesn't matter, either one. You'll find a lot of uses for this tape. So it's not just for this class. I mean, you're probably gonna do some painting around the house or whatever. So I mean, this tape will come in handy for a lot of different things. Okay, so the other thing you're going to definitely need are paintbrushes. Now these paintbrushes are brought from Michaels. It's called Artist Loft. Inexpensive brush. They're made, these are synthetics, so like a nylon hair. It works very well with acrylic and gouache and water-based paint, including this one. So this one right here, this is what we call a round, and it goes to a nice point. This one is a flat, and this is a smaller flat. Now brushes are like one of those things that, you know, you get the brushes to your taste. So here's like a smaller round. A lot of people like to use these for detail work, but the better the brush, the more kinds of things that you can do detail wise. I have a lot of brushes, so I love art supplies, so you can't go by me. Then you need one brush that's a little bit wide. So this one has like a little angle to it. It's a wedge brush. This is like a special brush, but you can find these. Sometimes you can find these in sets, and Then the other thing I like to use is a palette knife. This is a palette knife. And you find these, I've had this one for years. This is probably my favorite palette knife. And then paint, mixing paint. Usually I mix my paint on a plastic plate like this that you can throw away and discard when you finish. Okay, so we're going to start with first. These are the paints. These are gouache. These tubes right here are gouache. And you can buy them in different sets. This is a little bit higher end, but you can buy them in, if you go to the art store, you'll just look up gouache. And it's like a watercolor, similar to a watercolor, but the thing is that it's a little bit more opaque. And you just need a jar. I keep like a little jar. In fact, on my desk, I have this container. I've had this for years because I make a lot of watercolors, so I have this container. Holds the brushes in on the side. This is only if you don't need anything like this. So what I like about gouache is, like with acrylic paint. Now here's my gouache. I've used some of this gouache, but now I want to use it again. I can re-wet the gouache. So this gouache actually will last a lot longer than the acrylic. But once the acrylic dries on the plate like this, you have to scrape it off. But whereas with the gouache, I can re-wet and paint. And you can lay down some nice washes with it. It was like, say if I had mixed this purple before, I mixed the purple, and I still have the purple on my palette, and I can just kind of like go back to it. So if I've been working on a session of painting, I can go back to it again. And here's our yellow. And you can kind of like lay the yellow down. Now, some of you may already have paint, so say if you already have acrylic paint, that's fine, you can use that. Watercolor is a little tricky because if you have watercolor, but if you have cheap watercolor, you won't be able to produce some of the nice things. So here's a little layering, so you can intensify the color by layering yellow down first and then laying red down. But that's something we'll look at later on. So these are the colors that you'll need. You'll need the primaries. So you'll need a red, a blue, and a yellow, and then a white and a black. So those are the basic colors that you'll need. Now, there's a green. Now, the green is basically what I would call a convenience color, because you can mix with the primaries. You can mix all of your other colors, so, and you can mix them in different ways. So you can mix like a blue red. You can mix like you can take a green and you can mix your yellow and blue and your blue, make it green. But you can make it so that your green is a little bit towards the blue side or a little bit towards the yellow side. Or you can add a little white and make it a little bit more pastel-like. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. Now you can, as you notice, when you set it to dry, look how nice that purple, that more lavender kind of color. It really dries nicely. This is the gouache. So I wanted you to see the behavior of the gouache. Now let's take a look at the acrylics. Okay, so here, these are the acrylics, and I would be nice to say that all acrylics are the same, but they're not. So let's take a look. So like in the store, you'll see this paint right here. It's called Basics. It's made by Liquitex. But also, this is Liquitex cheaper version. Then they also make Liquitex, this is their artist grade. So there are two different types of Liquitex. So if you were buying, they're starting out like in this class and we're working on paper, the Basics is fine. Just make sure that it's not dried out or anything like that. Sometimes I've seen some sets where the paint wasn't quite, there's not a whole lot of folks looking around and inspecting stuff. So just make sure your paint is intact. Then you have Winsor Newton. They make a paint. This is their student grade paint. And then you have what we call like a house brand paint in Utrecht. Now I recommend Utrecht. You know, you can get this from Blix online or you can get this from Utrecht Linen online. Either one of those two resources, but this paint is pretty good. And you could use this paint for a student, artist, full time. I've used this when I was in school. And then this paint right here, Golden's paint. This is like the top of the line. So I just happened to have, I purchased it on eBay, and if somebody was selling a lot of it, so I was able to get in there and get a good deal on this paint. And then there's another brand, Amsterdam acrylic paint. It's kind of like Basics. Sometimes it seems to be a little bit better than Basics. I was buying this, sometimes I buy this for the class and people were trying to figure out how to mix a certain color, and I would just buy it to make it convenient. And then also you have the craft paints, acrylic craft paints. Believe it or not, these paints aren't too bad. These paints, if you can get these, you could work the class with the acrylic Basics. So let's take a look at some. Let's just spread some of this paint out on the paper and see how it behaves. So I put some out here on the pad. So on paper, this is the Basics. This is yellow ochre. So, and it's kind of hard for you to see this, but like I can still see some of the paper working through. Now this particular color usually is not as transparent. Some paints are by nature transparent. And then the other thing is key, towel paper. And keep your brushes clean. Try to keep your brushes clean as you're working, especially if you're moving from one color to the other. Keep your brushes clean. Take care of your brushes, and you'll, as they say. Now this yellow right here. This is the artist grade paint. You can probably see that it's leaving it's a little bit thicker, a little bit creamier, a little bit thicker. It really works nice. It really is kind of really buttery. And here, this is this blue. This is Winsor Newton's. And this is not bad, because this particular paint usually is a little bit more opaque. So that's this paint right here, the Galleria Ultramarine Blue. So that's not too bad. Okay, for a convenience color, this particular green is a good green to work with. And I'll show you. This is phthalo green, or sometimes they will call it Viridian. So this is the house brand. So this green is nice to work with, and I'll show you. In fact, I can show you by showing you a tip now. Whenever you're mixing color, always start with the lightest color first, because a darker color will dominate this lighter color. So now I'll just take a little bit of this green and add it to the yellow. And I can get a nice light yellow green here, like a nice yellow green. Something a yellow green or green yellow, whatever. But now if I want to make it lighter, I put a little bit of the yellow over here and take some of this same yellow green here and bring it over here. And next I can make that green lighter. And that's kind of how we work with those colors. Now we'll take this teal. This is one of those colors that is very hard to mix because some of these colors are made from gemstones. So you'll try to mix this color and then you're mixing and mixing and mixing. This is the Golden's paint right here. That is a nice color, and it really lays down nicely. So with color, with paints, you get what you pay for. And that paint really lays down nicely. One of the other things that I like to use is like a bottle spray of water. Spray bottle. It's like a little spritzer. And sometimes when you're working with acrylic paints and it kind of dries fast, you can just get a mist, kind of like mist. And this doesn't like spray a heavy layer of water on it. So you can kind of work and keep your paints you can work with your paints for quite a while that way. So these are the paints. Oh yeah, let's show you the black here. Sometimes I used to bring this black up because sometimes people want a black that's a little bit thinner. In consistency, of viscosity, it's a little bit thinner. So this one, you can see that this paint looks like it'll run a little bit. It's not as thick as these. These will just stay right there in place. But the paint, just because it does that, doesn't mean that it's not. It doesn't work well. So it still covers very well, the black. So oftentimes I'll get this color black. I'll use this type of black for line work. So if I had a thin brush and I want some lines, I'd use this paint because the other paint is so thick that it doesn't lay a nice line down. But this paint here, you can lay a nice line down, and it's by adding pressure. You put a line down and press down and then lift up and create nice lines in there. So you can see that. So these are the basic colors. These are the basic paper. The paper is important. Don't buy drawing, like the sketch paper for what we're going to do, because it will warp a lot. It won't behave the way you want it to. But if you get these simple supplies, it'll take you through the whole semester, and you'll be fine for the semester. We don't need a lot of supplies to do this, especially since we're working online, and some of these things will be scanned. You can scan them into your computer or take pictures of the work, and I'll show you how to take pictures later.